So the question was, which are some of your favorite dogs that you didn't breed, dogs that are not in your breeding program? And I have to be honest with you, there are plenty of them. I'm not saying that they're on the level of my dogs, but I'm saying that I really enjoy them. And some of them I enjoy because I've seen them in person, and some of them I enjoy the stories behind it. And some of the people also, I'm going to mention names. I never wanted to make this video, and the reason why I never wanted to make it is like if I give you, for example, for a name, for example, let's say how much I appreciate Ernest Hollingsworth. There's always going to be some beanbag that's going to come out with it, real watered down, completely worthless to Hollingsworth standards dog, and he'll have a dog and say, well, this is Hollingsworth dog. And this is really one of the things that I find the most annoying about dogs is like I seen Mayday and I seen the best ones on Maydays, and I seen some of the bad ones too. And some people come in with some dog and say, oh, this is really heavy Mayday. And the dog is really wacky, like completely not on level. So that's one of the things that really bothered me. So I don't want to, be rude to anybody. They come out like, let me show you my bug dog. Don't need to see that. We want to talk about the dog himself. If you created a dog that came out of those dogs and is really amazing, I would like to know about it. But if you just have a dog that is like, yeah, man, this is like a one-time winner in my neighborhood, don't want to know about it. So let me go. Unfortunately, my mind works differently, so I had to make all this long introduction. But one of the dogs that I really enjoy to see, and when I started in the dogs, I think it was a friend of mine in the Bronx called Champion Tabata, Lion Connections Tabata. A lot of people don't know this. That was a very rugged female. I really like her. She was very determined, and I really like her. I like her a lot. Out of Mayday at the time, because I saw most of those Mayday dogs, I have to be honest with you, I like them, all of them. I like Hunch. Hunch was a very durable dog. It had a style that he put a lot of pressure, and it was high quality dog. I like him, and I have my differences with Ralph, but without Ralph, his owner, I wouldn't done many things that I done at the very beginning, the first stages. So he kind of lead me into some do's and don'ts, even without him knowing. And I say that I have most respect, Ralph, because of that. I'm a big fan of Mr. Bills. I really like Mr. Bills. When I met Sammy the Arab in New York City, one of the most honest guys that I met, at least with me, he always treated me fair. A very nice guy, very dedicated guy, Sammy the Arab, for sure. One of the breeders that I liked at the time, he was not per se a dogman, but he was a breeder, and he was very dedicated to his craft as a breeder. And I wouldn't say this about a lot of breeders, but I'll say about him. And he was Richie Raganella. Ricky was a good, solid guy with his own bloodline. And I like him. I never met them, never spoke with them, but I think that the Yankee boys were people that I really like. I wish I would have seen them when I was young, but it was people that I have respect for them. Of course, John Bemis, STP, that is a man that I wish I would have spent time with. And he had a different style of doing things, and he accomplished a lot of merits that are very respectable, very respectable. All these gentlemen that I'm telling you, they have some level of respect to them. You got to respect them. I would love to make videos like this, but just with that understanding that I don't want you guys to like jump off your feet and say, oh, my dog has a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because I am completely against all of that. I'm going to talk about the man, the dogs, and if you have anything down the road from him, that doesn't mean that you have some of that quality. It's kind of tough and rude a little bit, but it's very practical. So there was other people that I had some admiration. you know, on those times. We were in New York, but we heard a lot about a man that I met later down the road, and his name was Jerry Wally from those guys, the guys that own Banjo, was Dead Serious Kennels. I always thought it was a really badass name, Dead Serious Kennels, you know. Later on with life, I realized that I don't really like kennel names. But if I had to have a kennel name, that was a good kennel name, Dead Serious. They were really dead serious about it. There are some people that, you know, I don't want to mention the names because we had really bad disagreements and they turned out to be real dirtbags as human beings. So I don't want to honor them by saying their names. So I'm not going to say their names. I'm just straight shooter, man. I'm a straight, real freaking shooter. There was a guy that I heard a lot of bad things about him, but I always suspected him that there was people that had envy about him, and he was Fat Bill. So I never really give a shit about what people said about him. I think it was a guy that he got his own merits, his own things, you know. As far as Mexico, I got to meet some of the greats. Cardenas was one of the ones that I always wanted to meet, and I never did any big personal business with him other than meeting him. But I have respect for him. In Mexico, they had a thing about being a gentleman. So I'm blessed that I met Mauricio Los Rios. I feel great that I met some of the guys. Enrique Magaña in Mexico. You know, got his own ways, his own things, but he always treated me with respect, where the word respect kind of falls, you know, without taking the fact that he's a competitor and a gambler. But he was always a guy that was treated me with respect, you know. And he really was a bob smarter than most people around him, for sure. Way smarter than all people around him, for sure. And so, you know, I always wanted to meet mountain men. It was one of my desires, and I never got to meet him. But I got to meet other people that I have a lot of respect for. One of them is Mr. Burns. You know, original dogs, yellow dogs, stuff like that. And I met him in his house, went to his house a few times. I was going to the Carolinas a lot. I was having very good luck. You know what I mean when I say good luck in the Carolinas. So I would love to go to his house. He lived in Fort Monks, South Carolina, I think it was. And he was a nice guy. A man that I spoke with a few times on the phone, and it was very respectful, and I always wanted to meet him. It was Williams. It was one of them was Hargrove, and the other one was Gaston. Both these guys, people that I would love to spend time with and talk a little bit about his dogs in the past. I bought some dogs from Bobby Hall. Never really spent time talking with him, but I spoke with the Captain Ben in Thailand. He had a lot of respect for him. So, you know, I read his books. They're very interesting, I think, for people to read them, for people that are new in the breed and want to read things. I don't agree with the outlook that he had about the dogs and what was good and what was not good, but I had to respect him because, you know, his stories and his books kind of got me like motivated and put some fire on me. So it was pretty good relationship, I think, with his books. I bought some of his dogs, and they were very good pets. I didn't like them performance-wise, but not that they were not quitters, by the way, just so you know. They were decent dogs, and I paid a lot of money compared to the other dogs, but I don't regret it because that's the cost of doing business. So I don't have really bad to say about him, you know. He was a good guy. Who else? You know, when the Chan dog, you know, the two-time winner it was a Chan's, I think it was Floyd. There was a time a friend of mine in Hawaii, Nestor Cavanting, he used to talk a lot about that dog. So he kind of got me hooked a little bit into it. But, and I saw a video of him, and he wasn't so bad. He was a decent dog. So it was a Jeep dog, and he was a decent dog. And to be honest, I seen a lot of those dogs back in the years, talking about the 2000s till 2006 or so. I saw a lot of those dogs and some crosses of Mayday with those dogs. And they were They were very good dogs. They were very good dogs. Unfortunately, you know, they didn't have really great dogmen to make it. You find that scattered here and there. And if some guy has like, I got a real tie, but he don't have what needs to be with the, you know, it's like having $100 bill that is worth a pound of gold, for instance. But you got the $100 bill, but you don't got a pound of gold. Kind of sad. I don't know if you understand that, but those time I was really focused on growing and myself. So one man that I really always wanted to meet, and I had the pleasure to have him in my house a few times. I'm honored for him to call me a friend, and we talk just about every week. We talk, and he's Victor Akert. I was very, very happy to meet him, and I'm very happy to be his friend. I really like him. We had, you know, our things and stuff like that, but I really, really appreciate him. I really like him. You know, in Texas, you know, the Texas finest, I don't want to say his name, and, you know, with Festus and Champion Chichi. You know, that guy, I have a lot of respect for him, and he did a lot of great things. Mr. Floyd Boudreaux, and I have to say that guy with Festus, you know, he used to be a really, really top competitor. He's very active, you know, but he used to be a very top competitor. And as far as Floyd Boudreaux, I think a lot of people really like him because he creates some dogs that create some bloodlines. You know, he's a gentleman. I don't really have anything bad about him. I just never like his dogs. For some reason, I never really, you know, by the time I moved to Texas, you know, most of the dogs that they didn't like, they had a little bit of his work. But you can't blame the guy. That's what happens when you have a good dog and you breed them and you let other people breed their dogs and they say, oh, I got a Boudreaux dog. And these guys end up ruining your name. So, but I think that the guy might have good dogs in his good days. I can't vouch for them, and I really can't talk bad about him, you know, because if you see dogs that really you don't like, appreciate they have his name, most of the times are going to be like not even 5% his dogs. They just take his name and bring it down the dirt because, you know, they really didn't build anything on the dog. But there were some dogs that you know, I think that if I had a chance to go back in time and talk to a dogman in the past, I think Fletcher Chavez, Carver, Tudor, Crenshaw, those would be men that I would love to go back in the past. To talk to Kobe, I wouldn't want to. Instead of talking to Kobe, I'll talk to Ameritage. You know, that kind of man I would have talked to. Kobe, I wouldn't talk to Kobe. But Ameritage, I would have talked to him. And definitely Carver, definitely Crenshaw, and definitely those men, I would love to, you know, sit down and talk and tell them, ask them about what they have done, what they believe in, whatever their beliefs, and then tell them what I have done and accomplished with the dogs, my travels, my experiences, my losses, my wins. I think they would be just in love, you know. Some of the dogs that I didn't get to see that I would have loved to see, Champion Hummer was one of the dogs that I would have loved to see. Champion Hummer. Stamponado would have been one of those dogs that I would have loved to see. You know, Grand Champion Buck, I don't think so. You know, I just, you know, I like him, but I'm not a fan of the hype. You know, I'm afraid sometimes when there's too much hype and you don't see the man behind it. You know, and you know, I think that the Buck blood got really helped by the Rebel Jocko blood. I really think not hating on Buck. If I had a chance to breed to him, I'm not gonna deny I probably would breed to him as well. But I will be very careful. I'd rather breed to Yellow for sure. If I had to breed to one dog in the past, I will say not one, but let me have a few of them. I'll breed first of all to Yellow John. That'll be one I want to breed to. The other one will be Grand Champion Yellow. The other one for sure, if I had to choose out of any of these dogs, I will pick Macho Wanta Winner from Victor Akert. That, to me, that was the best producer that you can think of. That dog right there, best producer. I think Awesome Buck is second to him, to be honest with you. And Awesome Buck is the dog of my heart. And Awesome Buck is second to him. The dog just completely got wasted. I mean, it is a shame that the people that let him die and had him, they're still around the dogs. Just out of complete shame, I would have just get out of it. But they never understood the magnitude, the quality of the dog. And it's hard for most people to understand. Like, people don't even know about him. You know, he's way above Barracuda, way above Hunch, way above all those dogs. Macho want the winner, for sure. Man, what I would have given to have him with me. You know, that dog right there. But there's a lot of great dogs, you know. Grand Champion Art would have been a dog that I would like to see. You know, it's a little difficult because, you know, sometimes when I'm answering these statements or talking about him like that, I really go back to the way I felt in those days and I had that level of curiosity. But then when you look at dogs like, you know, let's say Rakata, you know, bam, 9 minutes, you know, real fast lane. And you see Ciega, for instance, you know, 12 minutes, 18 minutes, you know, like this. And, you know, I reached this level. This level is so high, so high. You know, the Bagman, 14 minutes like this. You reach that level that high, and you know that those dogs in the past can't even play with these dogs that I created. But I do have a lot of respect for those men that definitely created some movement, some motion, some emotions that influence the American Pit Bull Terrier. Those real men, you know, with their faults, with their characters, with everything, they're like freaking saints to the breed. Believe it or not, these men were saints to the breed, and they need to be respected. And I'll make sure that when I write the book of those great men, I'll make sure I mention them in their very good light. You know, you know, the people, oh, Carver did this and he did that, man. I mean, you know, without him, whether you like him or not, I mean, imagine. Today, so many people talk BS on the internet just out of nowhere. And, you know, those men, they were solid. I'll think about it, a better lease for you guys, a bigger lease maybe. But, you know, there were some people that were active, and everybody's like, oh, this guy was in my area, he was really good, and that guy was in my area, and he was really good. I want you to stop and think. The radius of influence, the impact of influence is how I measure this man in my mind. You know, like instance, when you look at Ralph, for instance, he had Grand Champion Hunch and participated with Grand Champion Bruno Boy and participated with Demon, but he never became really a solid breeder. So he was just on some of the ways when I measure what a dogman is, he probably wouldn't qualify. But I think it would be an injustice to not call him a dogman. He died for this. He loved it. And the thing about it is that the mentorship on those times in that area, it was very difficult for him. He did the best he could. So he's honorably a dogman. People tend to confuse that. They think that a man that is in the box is really a dogman. And listen, man, that's just one area, you know. If people are doing it only for gambling, I don't even count those guys. I don't count the gambling on the dogs. For me, being nothing, zero. To me, was the people that developed the dogs. And when I talk about these great men, I talk about men that had an influence in others, that can uplift others by having either genetics or leaving a sample to be like, you know. And all these men that I mentioned, I mean, they either influence you with great genetics, with their thoughts, with their words, with their actions, with their sample they lived. And some of the dogs they created, they belong through everything, you know. I believe that without Yellow John, which is a Red Boy dog, Yellow John. Red Boy is by far the best bloodline in the whole, in the gray scale of dogs. I believe that if I would have gone back on time with my family of dogs in those times, my dogs would be greater than every dog. I mean, I will be bigger than everything ever created. If I take who is Chico Lopez and those dogs take them back then, I would have just completely, nobody have any dog that would not be from Chico Lopez. Nobody would have a chance to say, you know, I'm a better dog man, or I got better dogs. I would have just cleaned them all. But life has an order, and you have to go through that order. And as a man, I got to look back and I have to give respect where respects are due. These respects is due for this man. The reason why I don't really like to talk about giving all that respect like that is because there are some douchebags, doggers, and lowlifes that also respect them for whatever reason they do. And so I don't want to be on their level and say, well, you know, so you're a dogman, I'm a dogman. I can't stand that. I can't. The price I paid was too high for me to be on the same level. I mean, you know, it's like we're going to build a building. You know, you carry a brick. I'm carrying the whole bricks, cement and steel and everything to make a 100-story building. So how can we be in the same level? You understand? We're not on the same level. So I don't really like to talk about all that stuff when it comes to that, because I don't want to be on the level of the swamp. But at the same time, you know, being that, you know, this man made the mistake in most of the cases to sell their dogs to everybody. And if you think about it, only one sale of Hollingsworth had influence on me from Victor, which was Mayday. Only one. That's it. Few dogs. And then Crenshaw, just Jeep and Honey Bunch. You know, Shorty, those dogs. Just a few dogs. You know, the Red Boy came to several lines, but just few dogs. So I don't have really like direct point into a lot of this ocean of thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands dogs and people involved in the dogs. I have really nothing to do with them. No connection with them. No nothing. I literally give you 3 names or 4 names and we're in the 1800s. I'll literally give you 20 names of people that were necessary to create my dogs till the 1800s. And the rest of everybody, they were not necessary. But the dogmen didn't know what was going to happen at the time, and they learned it that way in the past, and they sold dogs to everybody. And that one of the crimes was to sell dogs to everybody. And if you really think about it, Hollingsworth was one of the ones that was like me, you don't sell dogs to everybody. But I'm pretty sure that if some entrepreneur of some buildings and stuff will walk to his yard, and respectable man going to church with children and stuff, so listen, I would love to have a puppy on your next leader. I'll pay whatever you ask me. I don't want to buy a dog from the dirtbags down the road. He probably would have sold it. And I'm pretty sure that if Victor Eckhart would have made the choice back in 1986 not to sell to the dirtbags, to sell dogs to great people, he would still have open Southern kennels. And I'm pretty sure that I would have given my shot to get the dogs, because I would have been able to come to him as Chico Lopez, young man, and he would have loved me. You know, 19 years old, he said, oh, this is a young man, this is, you know, I wouldn't have no problem on being who I am without all the people that put those dogs all over the place. All these geniuses today, I wouldn't be able to. So one of the reasons why I don't really like to talk about this, because I don't really want to be like on some level with those dirtbags, because I'm not. We have nothing in common. Nothing in common. Our principles, our beliefs, our values are completely different. But those men really need to be honored. And just because those dirtbags, they would love to, like, my name not to exist. At the same time, the name of the great ones, I cannot let it go without notice. And let it be known that those great men were never in the level of these, oh, I'm a dogman too, blah, blah, blah. Never. Carbo is carbo, the rest is all trash. Victor Eckers, he is that, and the rest is just garbage. Plain and simple, whether you like it or not, man. Oh, but this guy has some dogs. Okay, maybe he was a nice guy. Oh, he had 50, 60 dogs, 100 dogs, and he did this and that. Maybe he was a nice guy. We can leave it at that. But let's not bring in the conversation. Because you remember the story I told you about the one guy carrying 1 brick into the 100-story building construction? Why would you talk about the guy that's carrying 1 brick, man? The conversation is about the guy that built the building, the architect that built the building, that put all the bricks by himself and did this impossible. And we're going to talk about in the same conversation the guy that brought the one brick. We're not going to do that, man. Not on my conversation. So you see, for a lot of people, the beginning, the conversation was like, man, I don't sense the guy. By now, since you still listen to the conversation, you started to think about it and say, listen, this guy is a lot smarter than I thought. His thought process is complex. You start to understand and say, I agree with this guy. And I agree with this guy. And you agree with me. Because I'm talking about facts. And I'm talking from a point of view where you need to have higher IQ than most people. My name is Chico Lopez. Rest in peace, all the dogmen before me. The real dogman, the lead dogman, the flagship dogman. I never tried to be a dogman. Never tried to be. You know, I think I had 1 grand champion, 3 champions. And someone came and said, one introduced me, I remember. That was in North Carolina. He said, this guy here is a really good dogman from New York. His name is Chico Lopez. And I said, oh, no, from Texas. I said, yeah, but I'm not a dogman. He said, don't you have this dog or those? I said, yeah. Well, you dogman? No, I don't consider myself to be a dogman. So what do you mean, man? I said, when I have 5, I need to make 2 more champions to be a dogman. I said, man, you kidding me? You want to embarrass us or what? I said, I don't want to embarrass you. That's my standard. That's my standard. Take care, guys. Take care. I didn't want to make this to offend anybody. This is the truth to me. This is my truth. You understand? And if you have better merits, better quality, higher, whatever, I will be listening to you. I will know your name. I will know who you are, and I will be listening to you. I promise you, you are better than me. I will be listening to you. So the reason you're listening to me is because I'm number 1. And I don't say this with like ego and all this BS. I used to have it, by the way, but I got rid of it. I don't want to have any ego. Right now, I'm just talking about history. I'm talking about the past. It's just the past. Everything I just mentioned, 1800s, 1950s, 1990s, is all the past. It's history. So back then when I was younger, I had a lot of ego. And it was good to have ego. Because if you didn't have ego, they will smash you. You understand? Ego was good to have. All right? So I gave you the name of a lot of people that should not go unnoticed. But I did it because they earned it. Don't you ever compare yourself with those men. Those were real dogmen. Don't ever compare yourself to those men. Don't disgrace their name by saying they're dogmen and you're a dogman. Don't do that. Be a real fucking man. You haven't done shit. Okay?